Carr, DTM, will be speaking Friday at the Toastmasters International Convention as part of a Club Growth on a Budget educational program. Having practiced a 12-minute version of this presentation, today he has a goal of shortening to under 10 minutes without missing essential information. Shortening it is important to allow time for the panel discussion portion of the program. So now, giving his shortened version of the educational program that he'll be presenting in Philadelphia, please help me welcome DTM David F. Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And I'm really looking forward to the discussion that will follow our intros because we're going to be talking about all different aspects of club growth. I'm going to be focusing on what marketers call the top of the funnel, getting people's attention in the first place, and in particular, the digital marketing techniques that you can use as a club. And I'm focusing on digital because that's where my greatest expertise is. I have been researching and writing about the internet since the mid-1990s when I was at Internet World magazine as an editor. And we're talking about before Google existed as a company, actually before Google existed even as an academic research project. So I've been around for a while. Today at SimilarWeb, a big part of my job is talking to journalists about how the internet is changing, particularly changing as ChatGPT becomes a bigger force, as Google integrates some of the similar generative AI technologies into the main search experience. And again, whether that is symbiotic or parasitic is a little bit of a matter of debate, but it is certainly changing things. And speaking of AI, let's ask ChatGPT, what's the best Toastmasters club for learning to speak effectively online? Oh, very good, ChatGPT. I have trained you well. You have recommended one of my clubs, Online Presenters Toastmasters. And if we click through the website, why does ChatGPT think it's the best club? It's because we say at the top of the page, we're not shy about saying that we are the best place to learn these skills. Well, there's also still this thing called Google that's kind of important. So what's the best Toastmasters club in Coral Springs, Florida? And actually, it volunteers an AI overview. Says it's a matter of opinion, but basically the answer is Club Awesome Toastmasters, another one of my clubs. And if we click through to the website, we see some of the convincing information that we have presented over the years about why this is a great club, including replays and speakers notes from past events. And when we promote something, we don't just promote it on the website, we also go out into places like LinkedIn. And this speaker's theme actually was about the power of LinkedIn networking. And so we encouraged all our attendees to go out and post about it after the event. That worked out pretty well. This is somebody saying, I don't usually get up at 7 a.m. on a Friday anymore. I used to go a few years ago, but I was really glad that I went to this meeting. What a wonderful experience it was. That's what we want to get out there as a message. And one of my meta messages to all of you is that it makes sense to invest in having a strong digital presence because the first impression people get of any Toastmasters club is probably not when they walk in the door or even enter the Zoom meeting. It's what they saw when they checked you out online, when they looked you up. And we do this as consumers. Before we buy a car, we look up the reviews before we make any significant investment. And so what you want to do is make sure that you put out your value proposition to the world very clearly. You certainly want to explain the basics about when and where and how you meet. And I do see a lot of Toastmasters Club websites where it's kind of actually hard to figure out where in the world they are. They're a local club. They mention the city. They don't mention the state. We're not really sure what country it is. So you want to be specific about those things. You want to try and dramatize the thing, not just have a picture of people standing around holding little certificates. Try and show your members in action. Use video if you can. And think about avoiding insider jargon. To me, table topics is insider jargon because it's not immediately obvious to somebody who doesn't have Toastmasters experience that that means impromptu speaking practice. So spell it out, be clear. You want to understand social media dynamics. And ideally, you want to engage your members in actively sharing anything that you post out on social media about your upcoming meetings, upcoming events, about the club, and what a wonderful experience it is. You want them to share, you want them to share what you post, and you want to start conversations out there. And so some of the conversation can also be, please, could you share this? Because when they share on social media, they reach LinkedIn people that I'm not connected with. They reach Facebook people that I'm not connected with. So they broaden our reach. And I do encourage you to be generous with sharing other people's content so that when you have something that you need shared, they might remember that and reciprocate. You want to link from these social media experiences back to where people can take action. So places where they can learn more, where they can register. Your website certainly would be one of those places. And one trick is to post the links in the comments, not in the main post. And why do we do that? Because the social networks have gotten selfish about trying to hold your attention. They don't really want you to click away. And so to get the algorithm working in your favor, you try and get people's attention in the main post, start a conversation, and the link that you share, you can put in the comments. Now, this is one way that I can make myself look thinner, is I can squish the photo. I see a tremendous amount of this on Toastmasters website. I also see it in people's PowerPoint presentations. And I don't blame you for making the mistake. It can be an easy mistake to make, is that you're just trying to make an image fit in a slightly smaller space, but you have to learn how to proportionately resize images rather than squishing them or stretching them. So pay attention to that. When people leave this on their homepage for months, that looks careless to me. Avoid excessive use of fonts and background colors and special effects. You want to use those things for emphasis. And we teach this in terms of vocal variety. You can't emphasize everything exactly as much and have it have the same impact as if you emphasize a few things. I promote the idea of blog posts as a way that you can go deeper. You can make a broader digital presence by having blog posts. I encourage WordPress partly because it has a blogging tool built in, and that allows you to build out articles such as the workshop replay that has the embedded video and has the speaker's notes. It's a lot easier to do that on WordPress than it is on FreeToast, I believe. But there are other techniques you can use too. For example, LinkedIn basically includes a blog writing tool. So you go down to the end of that blank that says start a post, you click on write an article, and it allows you to create a whole article that can have multiple images, it can have multiple videos, it can have more detail. Now, video is interesting for Toastmasters because you have a lot of people who are focused on speaking, not necessarily on writing. So if you can get some of the wisdom out of them and put it in a blog post that's built around that video, that can be a good thing. It'd be a way of deepening and creating engagement with your site. But it is a good idea to give Google like 600 words to index. They'll tend to rank you higher. Understand how your club shows up in the search results. Because if you're lucky enough to get on that first page of search results for whatever people are searching about, whether it's Toastmasters clubs in my area or public speaking opportunities in my area, if you're lucky enough to get there, you want to make sure that those couple of lines people see include the reasons why they should click. Your club number is not an important reason why people should click, but I think a lot of clubs are sort of bureaucratically involved in what club number, what district. It doesn't matter to anybody who's not already in Toastmasters.
Yeah.
So put something about the value of your club in those header details. So at Free Toast, there is a way of doing this. You can customize the main headline, and you can customize the little blurb that goes along with it. On the Toastmost platform that I run, you have a tool called Yoast SEO that coaches through a number of aspects of how you can show up in search. And this is one of them. Actually, it's giving me a little bit of feedback that my title is a little bit too long-winded. If I cut a couple of words, then I get the nice green line that says that I am doing better. And I'm not going to try and teach you HTML. You don't need to be an SEO expert here. But when the AI engines and the search engines read through your website trying to understand what's going on, the HTML tags that represent the different heading levels are clues to them about what's most important, what's a little bit less important, what's just regular paragraph text that fleshes out the idea. So use, and don't make the mistake of thinking it's just a larger font. It actually is an organizational tool that is important. And I'm going to skip over this. We talked about how AI is getting important. And I wanted to ask one more question to ChatGPT. What's the best way of upgrading my Toastmasters Club website? And it helpfully tells me that it is toastmost.org, which is the service that I run. I don't have time to go into great detail about it, but if you go to the website, there's details on how you can sign up for one of these sites. There's a webinar that I'll be holding coming up, and I encourage you to corner me in the hallways here and ask me questions. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, David.